welcome everybody to another edition of Hot Program. We got another great show lined up for you. I am your host with the most from the East Coast, and as always, folks, I am in airplane mode, and I am joined by a man who restrains himself from asking Catholic friends if they got some mass at church on Sunday. A man who needs no introduction. How you doing today, my one black friend?
I'm good, but I don't see you.
You don't see
How
me.
are you doing?
Oh, I don't have my camera
No,
on.
I see an old record player, a tape deck.
There it is. There it is. Now you're gonna regret what you asked for.
Oh no. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing okay. Had a week that was busy with every task being interrupted by another task. But as I say to my employees, my job gets in the way of me doing my job. And
unfortunately.
I'm between projects right now, so it's happening here, and it shouldn't. I should just be able to laser focus, but that hasn't been the case.
Lena, I'm glad you're back from church. Worst service ever. Sounds like another members only episode and gather. Look, folks. Before we jump into today's topic, all right, let me just remind y'all of what's going on. We are switching from the free version of Gather to the paid version of Gather, and we're asking members to contribute $10. The way to think about this is it's like a restaurant reservation. It's like going out to a restaurant or the bar with your friends, right? So if this community is the type of group you'd want to link up with over a beer, hang out with off of YouTube, Gather's the way to do it. And for the price of that, what we do is instead of paying for a single event per hour or a few events a couple times, we just pay per person per month. And we use it as a virtual office for our community. On Friday night, Nitty did this absolutely banger set. Just this smash set in Gather. It was our first virtual rave, and it was really something. And, that's the type of thing where if you missed it, Nitty gives us access to the playlist, and that'll be one of the things up on the Ko-Fi, which is where we do our membership instead of Patreon. So yeah, really excited about that, and hope you all choose to join us. We're looking for 15 people to join in the next few days so that we can switch over to the premium Gather for next month. So do consider joining. And if you do decide to join, please join as soon as possible. The link is in the description. All right. Until my one black friend gets back, let's... Oh, he is back. All right, great. All right, well, cheers, gang. Appreciate you all for being here. Hope you're all having a great day. And yeah, Lena, I've got some time later on. We can get together and maybe shoot another episode and gather for the members. And also a quick reminder, starting next week, every Sunday, actually, we're going to do it this week too, but we might just be shooting the thing with Lena or something. But every week at 9 o'clock Eastern, every Sunday, we're basically going to be getting together and gather and having a community meeting. You can call it church, just like we would for my motorcycle club. And everyone that is a paying member will actually have a vote, and we'll be discussing like sort of issues going on in the community, direction of our content, people that we're trying to reach out to vote to have them join our club. So just a reminder that'll be going on every week. And yeah, we gotta get used to pushing our gather and what's going on in our community. All right, now look, let's get into what we got to talk about today. And you know, I'm committed to talking about a lot more of my personal journey with Christianity because I'm in a very raw place. I wouldn't say I'm looking for advice. Nope, definitely not looking for advice right now. Matter of fact, I would say I'm in a place where you got to be very careful with trying to give me advice right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. You can easily offend me with advice right now, because it's So basically, my one before I stopped talking to my mother and my grandparents for the foreseeable future because I had another falling out with my mom where. I was basically trying to explain to her that her faith is the reason we don't talk. Mm-hmm. And trying to get her to understand that it's a source, which is something I don't even think this community understands, which is that this was a source of everyday suffering for me. This like guilt of feeling bad that I'm not like reaching out to my family or talking to them. But at the same time, every time I think about talking to them or reaching out to them, it feels terrible because I have to not talk about being an atheist or not talk about what's going on in my life with regards to atheism. And yeah, I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, it just became a situation where I'm like, this isn't reasonable I don't even know if he can hear me right now. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Can you hear me? Oh, he can't hear me. All right. I'm just sitting there like, I don't know. It's just totally uncomfortable for me. I basically feel like it's that feeling of like accepting something is teaching it. And I feel like my family, like, I don't know. They just want to be Christian. And it became obvious to me, like, once I actually started to try to have the conversation, it became immediately obvious that they just don't want to have the conversation. And I don't know. It was such an emotionally manipulative place that my mother went to. It was disgusting. I literally had to tell my mother she was acting like a child. And I don't even know what to do. Like, like it was so repulsive. It was like, she literally turned into like a fuckface Frank Turek. And first off, she was basically almost trying to make me feel bad because I started by making the mistake of explaining that some people are atheists and they're able to, have atheist friends and family and, they're able to go along to get along. And that was a mistake because she like threw that in my face. Like, oh, well, I'm glad to hear that there are people who, can, get along with their friends and family that think differently than they do. I mean, I can. Your cousin LaToya is a Jehovah's Witness now. Like, why? Like, I'm like trying to explain, I'm not one of those people. We're having this conversation because I'm not one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to bring it out that, like, to me, they're doing something that I'm not comfortable doing. Like, they're putting part of themselves aside, and I can't do that. It's like, to me, it's like and I told her it's why we use the language of coming out. It's why we say, oh, I came out to my family the same way about atheism we would say if we were coming out as queer or something like that. And then the response is basically, oh, that's cool, I accept you for who you are, but number one, don't talk about it, and B, number two, oh, sorry, we just need to keep participating in the group that is totally bigoted against people like you. And this is the part that I kept trying to explain, and it's just refuse to get it. Just this bland, I don't see it that way. Like this, it was very upsetting. I was very disappointed. I didn't expect it to go down like that. I expected her to, like, get it. Like, oh shit, this is the reason you're not talking to me. Like, this is serious. Like, I need to fucking be here for you. I need to take this seriously. And oh, like, yeah, and I don't know. She didn't take any of it seriously. Then she was asking me these dumbass questions like, oh, where do you, so what? So life just happens? Things just happen? You don't, what about purpose? What, you don't believe in a higher power? And then would not let me respond. I had to tell my mother to literally shut up and let me talk. Because she was asking me questions and literally talking over me every time I tried to answer her questions. She was acting like a fucking child. And it's all bullshit. Like, all this, like, oh, she's just a sweet, innocent woman, and she's just, it's like, no. They just, and the thing that happened more recently is, like, yesterday I told my dad about it. And I was telling him, like, they're bad. They're not good people. They don't deserve to have me in their life. They fail to emotionally mature in a way that they can support me where I'm at now in life. And it's not my fault. Like, they're putting Jesus is more important than Jason. They're putting their cult before their own family, literally, just as the Bible tells them to.
Yeah, they're following instructions.
So that shows you right there the problem with the religion and why I won't have any tolerance for it. Because everybody else, to me, is we're just papering over this shit. And we watched some content recently on emotional blackmail, and I really realized, like, that's what I'm dealing with. And then every time I try to get support for where I'm at, I just get more emotional blackmail. It's why I don't even know if I want to do streams like this. It's why I want to do these conversations and gather. Because all you get is people guilt-tripping you even more. Oh, well, they're going to need them. Their girl's going to be around. Well, they did the best they could for you. No, you don't say this to people. I explained this to my dad, and he actually said I was right, and I really appreciated that. I said, because he said, your grandparents have been an incredible support system in your life, and yeah, a lot of people are raised by your parents, but you've got to, they've done everything they could for you all these years. And I'm like, look, you could be married to somebody 50 years, and you could be the best husband, you could be the best provider, you could be all of that. If you start being abusive and messing up on day one of year 51, and you messing up and your partner's no longer in love with you, that relationship is about to be over. You don't get credit for what you did in somebody's past as an excuse to overlook not doing what you need to do for them right now. And it just is what it is. And he agreed with that. And I was like, yeah, that's where we're at. And I'm not going to hear the excuses because my family are the serious fundamentalists. They are the Bible thumping Christians. And it's like, they don't care about the Bible. They don't care what's in it. They don't care about what Christianity actually does in the world. They don't care. They don't care. They just want to be Christians. They refuse to listen to anything that would tell them that they shouldn't be Christians. And it just doesn't matter anymore. And it's like, but I'm not gonna like, this is what anti-bigotry means to me. Like, I guess maybe I'm a social justice warrior. I really never intended to be. But look, we're never going to make progress with regard to racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, and yes, something near and dear to our hearts, the acceptance and normalization of atheism, if we continue to say, well, sorry, I can't make the bigots in the room, I can't hold them accountable for their bigotry because they're my friend, because they're my coworker, because they're my card buddy, or because they're a friend or family member. Because if that's the case, then let's just throw in the towel now. Because if I'm not going to call out my family because they're practicing a religion that's anti-atheism or anti-queer, then or misogynistic, then who the fuck am I to demand accountability for racism? I might as well just throw in the towel now and say, oh, well, if you got a racist uncle, cool, you're good to go. Don't say shit to your racist uncle. I won't either. Then let's just quit now. Literally, let's just quit now. Because if we're not going to push back on family and friends, we ain't going to change a goddamn thing in this world. So we seriously might as well just quit now. We might as well quit while we're ahead and say the new future is we're just going to get along with bigots. We're going to ignore their bigotry. We're going to break bread over Thanksgiving. We're going to work alongside of them. We're going to be friendly. We're going to sing Kumbaya. And we're going to talk about the weather and everything else but the motherfucking issues on the table. And then we might as well turn around to our marginalized populations and just say, look, we tried. We really are on your side. We really do care about you, but we're not willing to do what it takes to make these bigots uncomfortable because they're too important to our lives. So sorry, y'all just got to deal with continuing to be marginalized because we can't be uncomfortable. Now, if that sounds like some shit that makes you want to throw up your lunch from the last couple of months, you exactly now understand why I'm not speaking to my family. I'm not going to ignore their bigotry because it hurts that I'm going to have to deal with the consequences of them being in my life. Yeah, my grandparents going to die, and it's going to be like, yeah, but these are the consequences. To me, you cannot Bible thump your whole life. You cannot carry the banner for Team Jesus your whole life. Never take no kind of counter responsibility for if that shit is actually true and what effect your teachings of your faith actually have on people. What is the actual message you're spreading? You know what? I think it just has consequences. And that's how I feel about a lot of bad shit in the world. It just has consequences. And unfortunately, sometimes everybody has to deal with them consequences. And it's just, I don't know, but like, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore because I know what they really believe, and it's not okay. It's not okay to man. Like I tried to explain the misogyny to my mother, man.
Well, I'm going to offend you.
Go ahead. Just talk. Go ahead, man.
I'm going to offend you. I don't know that we can have a discussion without me offending you in this case. The way you opened it up.
I understand.
Yep,
You're good.
I'm going to offend you. And I'm amazing at it, probably. We'll see. I'll begin with the best question, and I've said this on Hot Program before, the best question I've ever been asked in my whole life. What do you want? So start there. What do you want? In respect to your grandparents, that's one question. And maybe two, one for grandmother, one for grandfather. In respect to your mother, what do you want? Start there.
If they're gonna be Christian, if they're gonna keep being Christians, I honestly just don't think I want anything from them. I don't think there's no.
But that isn't true, is it? You do want something from them. So go one by one. Grandmother.
They don't offer. They don't offer anything other. They don't offer anything other than God. Like, that's just who they are. They're literally. They're like figurines living in a fucking snow globe. Like, I don't know. Like, here's how I'll put it to you. This is how deep it's gotten lately. I don't know that I love them, right? I've realized this recently. Somehow we were listening to James. I don't remember what James was talking about, but somehow it got me. Whatever he was talking about got me thinking about love, and maybe it was. I think it was probably something about Jesus, like this compulsory love, right? Like, this love your enemies, the da-da-da-da-da, right? There's a lot of compulsory love, I feel like, in religion. Even with these, I don't, they clearly hate queer people. Like, they're clearly, they're like hatred of queer people central. But every time we talk to, no, we love them. We love them. Oh, I love the queers. I love everybody. I just love everybody. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. I don't love everybody. And I think compulsory love is wrong. I think it's immoral. I literally think it's immoral. It is absolutely wrong to teach people that they should just be loving everybody indiscriminately and all this. Really wrong. And I really thought about it, and I was like, wow, the same thing actually applies to family. I actually think it's wrong to insist that people love their families. And come to think of it, if I set aside the social obligation for compulsory love, I don't think I do love these people. Like, I genuinely realized I'm not sure that I do love these people. I'm really not. I'm appreciative. I'm very appreciative of everything they've done for me, right? But there's a lot of people who I appreciate what they've done for me, and I don't love them. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people, like exes and stuff like that, who were some of the, best times that I could have lived or even imagined, right? And almost as a safety mechanism, I need to not love them too, right? Because part of healing from those relationships was like, not letting them occupy too much of my head and too much of my heart, for lack of a better way of putting it. And it's kind of the same deal with this part of my family. Like, they've disappointed me so much, and they're so cruel about it. Like, I hate to say this, but I really, when you take the rose-colored glasses off, you start to see the manipulation. And these are some deeply manipulative people. And what I actually want is to not have a relationship with them. That's what I want. Like, really, like, that's what I was trying to explain to my dad. Like, I like, as for the foreseeable future, I don't want to. It's hard for me, because that comes with sacrifices, right? It comes with, losing a lot of my emotional and social security system. My mom's a constant source of, guidance and life advice and financial support and advice. And, my grandparents are always, positively reinforcing my identity. But I can't have that going on in my life with the people who are actually causing the pain I'm dealing with. And that's always been the problem. It's always been you can't get it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You can't get the peanut butter without the jelly because it's all squished in there together between the bread, right? So you can't extract, you know, the benefits of their love without also exposing yourself to the risk. And now that I'm unwilling to deal with the risk, I just have to live without the benefits.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Can you hear the fireplace fan in the background?
I can.
Okay, I'm.
But it's all right because we can see the fireplace. So if we were there with you, we'd also hear the fireplace.
Hear the crackling fire.
Yeah,
it's the fan.
It's actually super. It's actually super nice because everybody else is always faking their fireplaces. Oh. So you're leveling up here. Yeah, we got real. Oh, look at that. That's some real stuff right there. Yeah. It's a great scene.
It's not even warm. I'm sucking every bit of cold air, thanks to physics, right past me to go up the flue. So, like, I don't know that this is doing what I want to, but I do have a members only jacket right there that I can put on and keep myself a bit warmer. But look, I think let's break this down. If love is a recipe, I'm sticking with your grandmother as an example.
Sure.
If loving her is a recipe, what are the ingredients of that recipe? How would I love her if I followed your recipe? What would I be doing or adding or seeing?
I don't know. I mean, my family's pretty regular, bro. You just call them and visit. They're not really.
But this is basically asking what loving her means to you. What does the act of loving her include from your perspective?
I guess I'm not understanding the question.
Sure, you love your grandmother. Right now it's a bit tough, right? To do so? Like you're not engaging with them as much?
Yeah.
Okay. But how do you know you love her? Like what is involved in that? Is there contact involved? Are there shorter, long conversations involved? Is there care and concern for her health and well-being involved?
What are the love languages?
Yeah, I don't.
I didn't read that book, Wayne.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. That's part of the thing too, right? Is I realized how hollow those relationships are. I couldn't even tell. Like, even when I look back over my life. Like I can tell you all of the things me and my dad have done together over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you almost nothing about what is the thing on my mom's side of the family outside of religion. I mean, because they're cult leaders. You gotta remember, you're dealing with cult leaders, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's different, bro. Man, it's different. Like,
sure.
It's really all consuming. I don't know who. Like, I know little. Like, I barely know my grandmother outside of her faith. Like, I know stuff about her life history, and I remember when she worked at the police department as a dispatcher and stuff like that. But, you know, the church is like the center of their life, and so being around them feels like it feels like, and that's part of the problem too. Like, I wanted them to retire. Like, that was really important to me because then I could say to myself, well, at least they're not right now running a church that's spreading all this nonsense. I can't hear you.
Thank you. From your perspective, them being in ministry, they are poisoning the minds of their congregation, right?
100%.
Or not right? 100%. And you feel that affects society in a negative way.
Yes.
If I understood you right, you feel that this is they're learning to be, their religion teaches them to be a bigot.
Yes.
And there may be other lessons in there, but the only one, well, the one that you seem to have a problem with from listening to you is the bigotry.
I have a problem with. Okay, that the reason that matters to me is because that's a thing that it's a moral failing. Like I, even my own life history, right? I have failed morally to live up to my own standards. I think we all have, right? But me in really profound ways, and very serious ways. And one of them, based on my values, is that I did not take more seriously the bigotry in the religion. Now, that's ironic in the sense that they're simply overlooking a lot of that stuff the same way I did. But it wasn't. I wasn't aware of it. Like you know what I mean. Like I don't know. I feel like that's the issue here. The issue is people had influence on me, and I did realize these things, and I tried to change, and I wanted to do what was right, and I took those issues seriously once I could start to put it together, and they're just not even interested in engaging. And I have a hard time. Like I said, when I was talking to my dad, I was like, they're I don't think they're good people. Like I just think I don't know. It's tough for me because if I gotta give them this, I literally, it's like the Davis thing. Daryl Davis is friends with KKK members, but I'm sure he wouldn't accept that from his family.
Yeah, my mind went to him as you're talking about this.
Yeah, and also his friendship, his engagement with them is to change them. Like, we like to talk about the kumbaya, the easy part. Oh, Daryl Davis is friends with the KKK members. Can't we all just be friends with, people who disagree with us? Why do we? I'm like, but why is he friends with them? He's collecting robes, dog. Right? He's using friendship to actively get them to stop being KKK members. He's not just hanging out with them for the sake of being like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to spend 30, 45 years with a bunch of KKK family members, and then I'm pat myself on the back for being tolerant, right? That's not what this is about. And so that's kind of like me. Like, yeah, I'm happy to play at a church or, maybe have some Christian friends on YouTube, again, for the sake of exposing them and hopefully helping them walk this journey. But I don't think I should be tolerant of that in my own inner circle, because because when I do, I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing. I feel like I know that my people, to the extent that it's my family, that they are the problem. And then I'm getting on YouTube every day talking all this shit about religion, and then oh, hey mom, hey grandma and grandpa, how you doing? So good to hear from you. I'm not doing that now, and that was the problem, because I was hoping they would mature into like an adult relationship, but I just can't keep doing it. And I realized this, like, I'm not doing what's right. I'm doing what I prefer to do. You don't have to live your full truth at all times. You're not obligated to, I don't know, you're not obligated. I don't think people are obligated to do what I'm doing. But for me, it's like, this is how much I really care about this issue. This is how anti-religion I really am. And I also had to do this for myself. Like when my grandparents moved to my mom's house and started preaching out the house, I felt like it turned it into a church house. And it made me like not want to be there. And then them being around made me not want to talk to her and made me feel like I couldn't have open conversations with her anymore. So I don't know, but then when I really talked to her, I realized she's just gonna fight me to hold on to her religion no matter what, and then be angry at me for poking the bear. And I do think that is wrong. And I said this. I think I've criticized Peter W. and Rebecca for this. I tell my mom this. She tries to say, "What do you want from me?" I said, "It's very clear. Look into what I'm saying. If I'm in fact right that Christianity is bigoted against atheists, which how could it not be? And that's who I am, then to me, your last day as a member of that group should have been yesterday." But that's the problem, is that, and this is what I mean. So James has this thing he also said about if you're in an unequal power dynamic, if you're in an unequal relationship, then you're in an abusive relationship because you're always going to be marginalized. And this is what I mean. These are literally the people who taught me about right and wrong, don't tell lies. Again, love everybody, don't discriminate, don't be a bigot, tell the truth, right? And then turns out they're the bigots who have been lying to me about the truth.
Well, what have you seen them do? What have you seen them physically do that is bigoted behavior? Who have you heard them shout down? Is there a sermon that's pointing to this or that group?
Yeah, so my grandfather is a hellfire and brimstone Pentecostal preacher. So you're not going to hear a lot of hate from the pulpit, but you are going to hear a lot of the sort of, what you've got to do through God. Jesus is the only way, and it's how you get through all the hard times and all that type of shit. But here's the deal. It's like we talk about with Rebecca, like, you gotta know what's going on with your group. Just because you avoid focusing on the bad parts doesn't mean all you're doing at that point is you're doing the PR and the marketing. You're doing the reputation rehabilitation for your cult. Also, they have done things like my lesbian cousin was treated a lot differently and not really accepted coming up. Now they kind of came around on that, like they're accepting of her, but I don't even know what that means, because to me, like, and I don't know that it's for a fact, but I'm almost sure they didn't actually do anything to make amends, right? It was just, let's ignore it now and spend time together type deal. They didn't come to my mom's second wedding because they don't believe in divorce. They really, really up a lot of my mental health journey, because my mom didn't want to deal with me when I first had to, like, take mental health withdrawals from school, from college. And so I ended up staying with my grandparents, people thinking they had a stable enough living situation or whatever and could look out for me because they were retired. But, when I had issues, everything was like on this Jesus type religious intervention type of thing, where it was really inappropriate to be putting that type of religious pressure on me, and also to treat me like I was dealing with, they basically treat me like I was a heroin addict because I smoke weed, right? And was having a fucking serious crack to Christ intervention. Like, y'all, I smoke a little weed in the yard before I go to bed. Fuck out of here. I literally left. I literally left them in the middle of it and went outside and smoked the balls. Like, I don't know what they thought how this was going to turn out, but I am not about to sit through that. I'm like, fuck out of here. And then, you know, so it's just like a lot of little stuff, but they're also like really. And also, there was stuff like they're calling the hospital on me because I wasn't sleeping, even though I was asleep and shit. Like just a lot of weird. Again, people do abusive shit because they're not trying to get it. They're not learning. They're not getting it right. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. And we got to stop making excuses for them. That's the problem. And my grandparents both went to Bible college, and they write these elaborate sermons. These are not stupid people. And I'm just so sick of juvenilizing religious people. And also, I got to remember, I have a different mission than a lot of y'all. I am anti-religion. I want people to stop being religious, and I want them to do it yesterday. A lot of y'all just want to understand religious people, be friends with religious people, have conversations with religious people, sing kumbaya and hold hands. I don't. I think these religions are anti-science. They're anti-intellectual. They are holding us back, and I'm sick of it. So what I'm getting at is, like, I don't expect everybody to take this strong of a stance, but it is what I feel like I got to do, because I'm trying to end the suffering of not talking to my family because I can't talk to them about what I'm really about. So if that's going to be the case, if I can't really talk to somebody, if somebody isn't really the type of person that I feel comfortable bending their ear, then I'm not obligated to talk to them anymore.
Well, I hate to say this, but try not talking to them. Let them know, hey, look, and maybe write a letter. Because of the following factors, I'm feeling the need to distance myself, but just know that I am grateful for A, B, C, D, and so on. And I really appreciate that. If you need to interrupt this, please do. You may want to invite them to do that, because maybe there's some important things that they need to ask you that have nothing to do with faith.
I'm sure if something happens, my mother would call me, or
just
find a way to reach
open
out.
the door. Open that door for her and your grandparents, right? I'm one of those people that is very entertained by other people's religions, and I've always been that way. I can find some things about Christianity and Judaism silly, but at the same time, that person who is a believer, I take them quite seriously, because that's a human being with hope and failings. And I guess from my former perspective as a Christian, I felt sorry for God. Disappointing so many people on a consistent basis can be easy for you. But now I don't think there is one. So the disappointment makes a lot of sense, because there's nobody doing the work. So in this change that you'll be making with your family, or that you're in progress of making with your family, you got to let them know that that's the state of things. And you have to let them know what they can expect from you and how you'll be there for them, if at all. And you may want to write a letter to each person explaining, hey, grandpa, here's what I have to tell you. Grandma, here's what I have to tell you. And you may want to write something that's worth them sharing with their congregation. Because there's, just like you and I were atheists in many of our audience, sitting in the pews, not ready to call it quits, going to church yet. There's going to be people in that room that are going to hear what you have to say and say, you know what? That guy's right.
It's unfortunate. They would just never do that. I hate to say this. They're not that intellectually honest of people. They're just not. It's sort of funny. We do a thing with our families because we love them, which is, and I don't mind talking about there's a lot of wonderful things about my family, and I don't mind sharing those. But to be honest I'm trying to be honest with myself about who they are, so that I'm being more honest about what to expect from them. They're just not that intellectually honest, especially not with this topic, right? And that's their defense mechanism. Their defense mechanism is not to look, not to listen, don't talk about this, and quite frankly, to make people feel bad if they do. I don't know that they're clinically, I guess clinically narcissism is not even going to be a thing anymore. You're just going to be able to say, it's just going to be a personality trait or whatever. I'm not sure if they're really the narcissist or if they've just playing out of the narcissist playbook from religion. But at this point, I actually think they are really narcissistic. I really do. I think what's happened is they're so deep in the faith that their personality is almost like completely intertwined with the problematic approach to Christianity. And this is it's really sad, but this is kind of where I'm at with it. It's even one of my frustrations to kind of transition a little bit, and we can tie them together, but it's part of my frustration with this community and a lot of the content that I see in this sort of atheist Christian conversation community or whatever. I really think that it's part of the reason we're trying to focus more on Gather in like our small community, because I really think, I don't know. I think the conversations we're having have very limited potential. And part of it is I just think I don't even think we're not having the same conversation, and I don't even think we're having the right conversation. Here's what I really feel like is going on in our community. We have these people who are Christians, and let me just put it to you just like my family. They just want to be Christians. They just want to be Christians, y'all. They just want to be Christians. Y'all already know the three big things: hope, meaning, purpose. Okay? And instead of talking about how much they really just want to be Christians, because that gives them hope, meaning, and purpose, or a sense of community, blase and the glavinoids, we sit around having conversations about everything else that has nothing to do with why they became Christians, why they remain Christians, or what they'll have to do to actually leave Christianity. And instead, we're sitting around talking about, well, what's the ultimate basis of your reality? Is morality subjective or objective? What's the epistemology of the axiology of the ontology of why? And then we're sitting around talking about philosophy, and well, do you accept the Big Bang cosmology? And well, what about evolution? And da-da-da. Why? It just has nothing to do with why these people are Christians. Nothing at all to do with. This has nothing to do with why. Nothing at all to do with why they're Christians. And then on top of that, Who, if you're anything like me, and a lot of y'all are not. A lot of y'all are just atheists. You've just converted. You're atheist. You're good to go. Now you're no longer a Christian, and so that's the new thing. Me, I am vehemently and likely violently anti-religious. And I have some people who, to me, are supposed to be the atheists. They're supposed to be anti-religious, and they're sitting around going, "Yeah, that's great. Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, let's get into that." And then we're just we're so happy that we have a friendly conversation, that we let them make us talk about these distractions for 2 hours, and then we congratulate ourselves about how nice we've all been to each other. Oh, isn't it great that we could sit down and have these conversations, and even though we disagree, we're just buddy, buddy, buddy. Call me if you need anything. Da, 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 da. Nah, bruh. To me, like, it is time to talk more about the bigotry. It is time to talk more about the impact religion has on society. And why on earth do these people want to defend this thing, especially if it's not true? And so that's why I don't know Christians and Gather, y'all. I'm not trying to encourage these people. I'm not trying to make them feel warm and fuzzy inside. I'm trying to get them to understand there's some serious problems with your religion, and you seriously need to look into it. And if we are going to have conversations with these people, we really need to get at why they continue to want to identify with this cult, rather than letting them distract us with all this nonsense.
Well, the cult is community. The cult is validation. When you were a Christian, did you ever evangelize?
I did.
You did. Okay. I did as well. How did it feel to walk up to a person you didn't know and share your faith?
Yeah, I can see that.
No, how did it feel?
I mean, it's scary at first, and then it's, if it goes well, you feel a sort of sense of elation and all that.
Okay. So I want you to consider sort of how well constructed Judaism and Christianity are. I can't really comment about Islam. I don't really know. I've had like 3 conversations in my life about Islam. But anyway, Christians have been told they will be persecuted for their beliefs.
Right.
So when a person goes to downtown Santa Monica, California with a bullhorn, and they're on the beach telling people about Jesus, completely ruining the day of many people walking by, right? All the people who, they don't want to hear anybody's music. They don't want to hear anybody else's radio. They just want to enjoy their loved ones and their friends down at the beach.
Right.
And the dude with the bullhorn telling them about how wonderful Jesus is and how awful hell is not doing anything to increase the loveliness of their mood. Finally, someone walks up to the person with the bullhorn and say, "Can you stop this? Like, you realize you're disturbing all of these other people. Now it has come to fruition what the Bible has told them. They're being hated, even though there's no hate there. They're being hated,
right,
for bringing forth the message.
Right.
It reinforces the belief.
Right.
So that person will listen to the person asking them to stop and then pick that bullhorn right back up, because God must be blessing me. There's a blessing forthcoming because I'm carrying forth the gospel. I'm doing what I was told. Again, the brilliance, the sheer brilliance of the con men, in my opinion, who constructed these two religions blows my mind. They must have seen it all come, and that's why they were able to, I know how to combat that. I know how to rebut that. They were just geniuses about it. That's what you're competing with. And now you're the one trying to rationalize with them, telling them, hey, there's no metal sky dome above the earth.
Right.
And they're looking at you like that doesn't even matter. That's not part of my
right,
faith.
right.
But it is.
But it
But it
is.
is.
It's the core.
No,
It's the
no,
Bible.
it's not.
Right.
No, it's not. You're trying to tell them that the earth isn't flat, which they will more than likely agree with you.
Right.
But if you try to show them in the Bible where it says it has corners and it's set on pillars, no, that's not what that means.
Right.
You are dealing with people who have been taught, and a lot of times they'll give you a rationalization that is right out of the Bible. It becomes their reference book. It becomes essentially a way of, if you want to look at it, a tint on some lenses that helps them stand in the brightest light of knowledge and not go blind, right? To filter out what you and I are saying, what our audience is saying, when we speak to them about things that are rational, when we share with them a rational perspective. It's not what they want to hear necessarily. The Bible already tells them what they should be paying attention to, and they do. They do pay attention to that. They need that. They love that. They appreciate that. God is on their side. God is helping them. If a prayer doesn't get answered with what they wanted, then God has answered that prayer by saying no or wait. The system is darn near faultless until the day comes when you really need it to work. And then you really have a long, hard look at it. And you realize maybe this has all been live action role play. When I I have my esoteric opinions about the Gospels and the Bible and how all that was written and that Revelation came before the Gospels, blah, blah, blah. I just continually disagree with people, just continually disagree because I have my own perspective. And maybe I'm wrong. And maybe I'm right in thousands of other people who study this before me and teach it for a living are wrong. And I'm right. Could be. But the beauty of it is people get to form their own perspective. You are competing with leaders, your family, okay? You're competing with leaders who have mastered coloring the perspectives of their congregations. So in order to trump that, either you have to single-handedly prove the Christian religion and the Hebrew religion false. Good luck with that. It doesn't take much, but the difficult part is convincing people, because people show up every week or nearly every week that they can to a church to be reconvinced, to have that idea, that passion reinforced. And that's what you're competing with. Again, you said it a moment ago, hope, meaning, and purpose. I celebrated with my neighbor. She just turned 88. So she's in a way, she's like she's an inspiration to me. I love her very much. But yeah, she just turned 88. She didn't get there without God in her mind, even though longevity is on both sides of her family genetically. She takes pretty good care of herself. She's probably was like essentially gonna make it this far and even further, even though she talks about dying all the time. But the point of it is, in her belief system, and she knows I'm an atheist, and we once in a while she'll say thank God, and she'll look at me like, you're not thanking God, are you? Like, no. But where she and I have succeeded in our friendship is that we matter, not her faith or my lack of faith, us. Because at the end of the day, faith is an aspect of her life, and smiling in a way that seems like I'm approving, but I'm really just enjoying hearing what's coming out of her mouth in terms of faith, is my way of dealing with it. Right. I'm going to talk to my aunt, see if she'd like to come on program so she can give us her perspective about how her and I interact with her being a minister, and me thinking it really is like, it's got a few nice things to say in Christianity, but for the most part, it's just made up. It's just made up. There are ideas that aren't good in there. So you can, I guess, ask the questions maybe that your family won't answer.
She's fine. That'd be great. That'd be great. I'd really appreciate the opportunity to do that. I'll be on my best behavior that day.
I would want the audience to interact as well, because my aunt is a very personable person, and she would probably appreciate knowing how to interact with another part of the community at large that doesn't accept her beliefs. She and I are always laughing and joking our way through it, but everyone can't do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't do that probably with your family.
The thing, because the thing is, and that's why the bigotry piece is so important to me. And it's the part we don't talk about. I don't know why, because we care. We say we care the most about the impact religion has on the world around us. We say that all the time. Oh, if you just had some belief and you kept it to yourself in your home, there'd be no problem. But then the truth is, the actual impact that the religions we deal with have on us is massive. And they're constantly reminding us that they do it because the doctrine demands that they do it that way. But then we don't have those conversations. We avoid those conversations. And so what it does to me is it allows them to basically ignore that. They're looking the other way. They're saying, I don't want to go there. I don't want to talk about that. I'm not a bigot. I love everybody. And then when we, the people who are really equipped to say, hey, you got to pay attention to this, we're going, oh, no, I'm happy to look the other way too. And then to me, that just reinforces their identity, because they want to focus on the good parts and we want to focus on the good parts. And I just think it's important that we provide meaningful pushback. And part of what I think we have to do is, I got to be honest with you, I want to do a stream about how they have an answer to everything. They have an answer to everything. Religion, they have an answer to everything built in. So do I. Yeah, so I think we have to bring them social consequences. I do think that that's what it's going to take to meaningfully turn the tide against religion. It's going to take people deciding, and I don't think we're there yet, but I think we will be there. Like right now, I say KKK, a lot of people go racist, intolerable, da-da-da-da-da. If I say words like Nick Fuentes and Kanye West, people are going, absolute, intolerable, anti-Semites, don't have dinner with them. Even having lunch with them is a terrible, awful idea. But then when I say Christianity, people go, oh, I love my Christian friends. They're just wonderful. Oh, they're just the best people. I think eventually we'll get to the point where we're just like, oh, yeah, no, really, Christianity really is the problematic. And when we get there, I think that the thing that will get us there is people really starting to treat the Christians in their life differently, because the book's got an answer to everything. So now what you first want to undermine, at least in my opinion, is that warm, fuzzy feeling. You to me, this is a powerful statement. Now, like I said, I don't think what I'm doing is something everybody should do or can do. But I do think it's a good thing to do. I think it's a powerful statement. I think if you really can distance yourself from Christians in your life, especially if you can make it clear that their Christianity is the reason you're doing it, I think they got to think about that now. Every single Sunday, my mom sits through a sermon or whatever to, like you said, reinforce her belief and feel all those good feels. She's also now got to feel the tension of, but wait, this is also the reason my son won't talk to me. And I think more and more people actually having to deal with there being meaningful consequences to their participation in this cult is what will actually stem the tide. So I think what I'm doing is difficult, but I don't think it's a bad thing to do. I think it can be really helpful. It's just it's a tough ask, so you can't ask most people to do it.
I think you have to. My father used to always talk about the Native American phrase, you'll understand a person, and I'm botching it. He remembered it better than I do, I guess. You won't understand a person well until you walk a mile in their moccasins.
Right.
So you have not worn your mother's moccasins nor your grandparents' moccasins. You have not.
Sure.
However, because they have an answer for everything, and this is actually something I like, and I've been told this numerous times. Oh, you have an answer for everything. You have an answer for everything.
Right.
Well, I'm lucky enough that I can also say, I don't know, but let's find out.
Right.
When I don't have a ready to hand answer. In high school, I asked my Latin teacher, who was also an English teacher, I said, I'm writing something, and there's something I say that I've never had to write down. Can you explain it to me? She goes, sure. I said, used to. How do you write that? Because I know I have an accent, as I had then. And she said, it's the words used and the word to. And I look at her. She just shined a light on it for me. So I thank her. I go back to writing my thing. I had been saying this since I was a child. Basically, probably since the first year I could talk, I had been saying this expression, used to. But I say used to, never had to write it down. Someone was able to take something I didn't really understand it. I used it. I understood how to use it. But what I didn't understand is how I could give a written communication to show someone else what I mean, what I was trying to express. I needed her for that. In many people's lives, your mother and your grandparents are those people who take that Bible and they translate it into a way for them to pass it on to others, right? To communicate to others. At the same time, my teacher perfectly understood what I was asking her. Often ministers don't. They don't have a cultural context for what they're saying. They don't get that. Even if they went to seminary, a lot of new opinions have come along as they've dug up old scrolls.
Right.
Somebody comes along and gives a completely different take on something that has been agreed upon for 1,000 years. You have the higher critics, the Dutch radicals and things like that. They've never heard of these things. They don't know the opinions of these people who scrutinize the same text, which they claim to love so much. And you got to think, Pocket Locker, most Christians do not read the Bible. So this is essentially the instruction manual on how to be a God-fearing Christian. And they haven't read it. Well, look, I have a smart TV. It does way more things than I ask it to. Or excuse me, it's capable of those things. But I'll probably never access the Netflix on my smart TV because I have an Apple TV and that's how I watch Netflix. I don't know how to set it up. I could probably figure it out. But the instructions that came with the TV will tell me if I really want to know. You have a group of people who statistically, and I don't know if they're unwilling, maybe you have to say it, it's that they don't access the manual. If I read through the instructions and I see errors the way it's written, like I buy a lot of Chinese things, we probably many of us probably do, and I can see that the translation into English wasn't something that someone scrutinized a lot. The phrasing is strange. They're using unusual wording. It's so unusual that you can't even tell what they're trying to communicate a lot of the times. It would be fair to say some of those people are probably the guy or gal in charge that's probably doing their best to use Google Translate or some other tool like that to help them. And it's not working well, but they're doing their best. When you speak to your family, sometimes that's you. You're doing your very best, but it's not communicating in their language. The best way to refute a claim by a Christian is with their very own Bible. If I'm having a discussion with a rabbi and he starts pulling out stuff from other rabbis that have made commentaries over the years that contradict what I'm saying, I kind of have to slow down because I'm like, well, I didn't read that guy. I'm not familiar with his opinions. So can we just go back to the source material right here? Because it says right here, A, B, C, and D. Let's just focus on this, right? Because right now, like the guy you're citing, I'm the guy with another opinion.
Right.
And we're trying to work out what this really says. Again, I'm going to quote Rabbi Sherwin Wine. We know it. The Bible isn't for children because then it would have to be clear. It would have to clearly state what it's saying, right? And it doesn't do that.
Right.
And it out and out tells us in places that this is kind of written in a code, so the average person just doesn't get it. They just won't get it. Because they're not going to put in the work. They're not. See, I think that's the point. They're unwilling to put in the work to truly get it. Right? It's not like a guy really killed hundreds of people with the jawbone of a donkey, did he? Unless he was a prop comic like what's that guy, Carrot Top, and he did funny things, and the audience just being killed is so hilarious. He's killing it out there. That's not what they mean. There's no evidence that a flood 15 cubits high, roughly 22 feet, flooded the whole world. We don't have that. But there are people who will just buy into it, right? It's meaningful to them.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
most Christians have not, as the Bible calls them to, worked out their salvation. Right? They've not done it. Because the truth of it is, it's not worth it to them. It's not worth
Say
it
more
to
about
them.
that to them. Say more about that.
Well, sure. It's just a fact. Again, statistically, most Christians have not read the Bible. But what does that say? Does that say that they don't like it? They don't want to? They'll read every J.K. Rowling Harry Potter book or anything that woman cranks out. What she writes may be very engaging, very interesting, spark the imagination. And yet they don't think the Bible can offer them that. Right? Or maybe they read the Bible and they start to read it and it's just too dry, too many rules, too fanciful, or it conflicts with the education that they got in school, right?
Right.
Woman wasn't derived from a man's rib. That's silly. Things of that nature. For me, give me 1 second. For me, reading the Bible is what got me out of Christianity. Reading the Bible did.
A lot of people say that. Yes, absolutely.
So imagine maybe that's why people don't read it. The fear that reading the first few pages of utter nonsense that are in the Bible conflicts with that person's ability to reason. And if they keep reading it, it's going to keep chipping away at their self-worth. It'll keep chipping away at what they think is reasonable. It'll keep chipping away at what they think is moral, because the Bible of the God of the Bible, he steals land from people, he commits genocide, he dang near wipes out everybody in the world, he invents Satan and then has a problem with Satan corrupting other people, but the God of the Bible himself corrupts people. You know, like Ezekiel 20, he gave them statutes they could not follow or should not follow, things like that. So he does that. It's not clear what this God wants, and yet they say they love him. And yet, if the average person, you know, a friend or neighbor, committed atrocities on any of those levels, they could not love that person. They would have to withdraw. Excuse me, I got to add more firewood.
Yeah.
I'm putting you on speaker.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really interesting, but that's kind of the deal, where, and I've said the same thing about students, like teaching evolution, and that a lot of times what you get in the classroom, it's not so much that a student is anti-evolution, it's that they're not willing to put their eternity on the line or at stake for what they consider to be, quote unquote, just a theory. But look, a lot of times I think we overthink these things. Part of it for me is I just don't think that people are being honest with themselves. And I don't think you can honestly look into Christianity in an intellectually honest way and come out still a Christian. So a lot of times I really do wish that I didn't challenge particular people's Christianity, because to me it just brings out the fact that they're unwilling to challenge their Christianity no matter what. And that's a sense of disappointment with my family. Like, you just realize they don't care if it's true. They don't. That's not the most important thing, and it's just weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to deal with, but it's the same thing we're dealing with in this community, where we're having these conversations, and sometimes I'm sitting there like, am I the only one that notices that these conversations don't matter? That these people just stay on the same tip. We've explained the problems with their viewpoints over and over and over again. So why are we patting ourselves on the back, congratulating ourselves for having conversations with people who aren't listening? I mean, it's crazy. At some point, we need to hold ourselves accountable to stop talking to these people who are wasting our time. Or we need to start actually demanding some accountability for continued engagement. The irony, of course, being it'd be hard to continue to find people to engage with, because people to actually be deconverting. So we hold ourselves up to the standard of having these honest conversations with people who aren't actually being honest with us. It's very interesting. So, yeah, they don't care if it's true because they think they know it's true, and so does everyone else. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess at some level, that makes it feel like you realizing it's not true is just like something weird going on with you. and it doesn't demand anything of them. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough. But yeah, Lena, let's get together and chat offline. I think we can get together and do a follow up on church and gather. Please consider. Do we have the bot going again? Please do consider joining our flight crew, becoming a member for $10 a month. It's really been awesome for us. I can tell you guys that for me, switching over to focusing on Gather has been life-changing. I know some other people feel that way. For a lot of people, you know, we use YouTube as a bar type of scene to where you're looking for who's live. That way you have a place to link up with your friends. And, you know, that's not always feasible. Gather is kind of just giving us an actual virtual space to be able to link up with each other 24/7. So, yeah, go ahead, hit up that Ko-Fi and join the gang. We really appreciate it. Programming note, I guess we'll wrap this up, and then we'll be in Gather streaming, be gaming with my club, and then we'll just be hanging out and Gather. We're in the ranch now, and then tonight at I guess 9 we'll get together and either do our meeting in Gather or maybe we'll be having that conversation with Lena. So we'll see. So yeah, definitely come link up with the gang and Gather. Currently we can fit 10 people in, but we're hoping to push the capacity beyond that. All right. So, my one back friend, one of the things I wanted to get your input on is the problems of sort of the apologists versus counter apologists conversations, where I feel like we're also dealing with the same thing. I think if we're honest with ourselves, theists, Christians, apologists, conservatives, however you want to put it, they've never won any of these debates. I mean, to say they have nothing is an understatement. It's I kind of feel bad for them. I often wish they had more to their side just so them defending it was less embarrassing for them. But we keep having these conversations. And it feels like we won't talk about the elephant in the room, which is the fact that, again, they just want to be Christians. Does that ever frustrate you, or?
It doesn't frustrate me because I'm entertained by it so much. Are there Christian points of view that are harmful? Yeah, but there are Christian points of view that I could consider beautiful too. I wouldn't want those to go away. The harmful ones, I would. I think Christianity is supposed to be some sort of a soap for scrubbing away hypocrisy, but it doesn't do that very well because it's meant for human beings. A dog might get away with it okay, and maybe even a cat. If they understood Christianity, they'd probably do a fairly good job at being great Christians. But individuals with lack, wants, needs, desires, survival instincts, being duplicitous, there's a lot of things it just doesn't correct in the average person, right? I go back to sell all you have and give it to the poor. Like, if you would be perfect, sell all you have and give it to the poor. Man, virtually every Christian I've ever met has got an issue with that.
Right.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Wow. Turn on your television. You got all manner of people trying to stop trans people from having rights, gay people from having rights, complaining about the woke movement. And as we showed on this program, Christianity is a woke movement, but they don't see it. They don't see it because they're not following the mandates. They're following some of what they remember. They haven't embraced it all. They've embraced what they feel is expedient to their lifestyle. Right? They haven't made themselves uncomfortable enough, as the gospel calls them to do, because they know. Again, I'm using this term. It's live action role play.
It is. It really is.
It's live action. And if as I read the Gospels or Revelation or whatever, Jesus and pals are live action role playing what they read in the prophets and Revelation, because they're trying to bring it about now. They think that 2,000 years ago was the time. The time is at hand. That doesn't mean just give it a couple of thousand years and some stuff's going to go down, guys. That's not what the Bible's trying to say. The only the one who's smartest about it is Enoch, saying, not for this generation, but a remote one. Boy, he saved his bacon with that.
Right.
Because nothing has to come true in his time.
Right.
It can all come true later. The New Testament isn't giving us that. It's saying it's imminent. It's now. It's here. But it's there back then.
So yeah, I really do think if they say I'm a bad guy, I guess I'm the bad guy. I don't think Christians are honest people. I don't think they want to know the truth. They don't care about the people who were Christians, who cared about Christians who care about the truth are no longer Christians. I think that's the real difference between us and them as former believers. We looked into it enough. We read the Bible. We read about the Bible. We learned about what was going on. We said, oh, if God created the world, let me learn about the world, and I guess I'll learn more about God. Whoops. And I think for them, they just went the hope, meaning, and purpose track. But there's something else going on with the apologists, right? Because the apologists have been exposed to all the counter arguments, and they know that, they sort of understand the other side, but again, they still just want to be Christians, which reveals something I think deeply flawed about their character.
Well, it's trying to preserve their character. How do you it's a difficult thing to do your best when you don't have the tools. It's a difficult thing to do your best when you've been told not to. It's a difficult thing to do your best when the people telling you what your best should be were wrong. What they described to you was wrong. And I think that's what a lot of Christians are wrestling with. That is why it's so difficult, because they've been given they've been prescribed a list of things to do that simply aren't good enough. Right? The mandates, some of the ideas are wonderful, but how do they live that way? They don't have great examples of that. When Jesus says, sell all you have and give it to the poor, well, there were people who were sponsoring him and his disciples walking around. Is the average Christian going to have that available to them? Well, they may not. They might, right? But they don't know that. So they never go all in. They never push all their chips in the middle. They won't do it because it's uncertain. Well, I get that it's uncertain, but you said you're a Christian. For your family, what's going on there is, it could be, shouldn't say it is, it could be that Jesus says, like, if you don't love your family less than me, he says hate, but some people will say that means love less, then you're not worthy. And they want to be worthy, especially your grandparents, because they have more days behind them than they do ahead.
And the irony is I'm feeling the flip of that, which is at some point I think a lot of us have to love truth and justice and whatever it is that has me on this tip more than we love our families as well. You know, it becomes, because to me it's like drawing the lines like right is right and wrong is wrong. And being family doesn't give you a pass. It's not really saying I don't, you know what I mean? So that's interesting, but to me, and then again, they're on the same tip. This is what happens when you reach what we call irreconcilable differences, because they think they're right and they've got to hang on to what they did because it's right, and I'm like, well, I can't deal with that because that's not what's right for me. So it's hard, but that's where we're at with it. Do you have any closing thoughts, my one black friend?
I do, and this is a strange one. I'm currently, as many of you have heard, I'm interested in selling my house. But one of the things, since I was gone so much in the last 12 months, I've been away from my house like 8.5 months. I realized like I can live with very little. Like I just don't need a lot of things. And yesterday I was sorting through some clothes. Ugh. If Cam is watching, and Wayne's watching, that I can't fit anymore, which are way nicer than the ones I can. I said I could sell everything I own if I just had a sale where I sold every single item in my house for $1. I could actually buy what I need and have money left over.
That's pretty good.
I could buy just the things I need, even for work. So maybe I couldn't sell my computer because they're expensive.
But I don't think you should do that. I
don't want to, but I'm probably not taking much of these things. If I move or when I move, I'm not taking much with me. I got a few bicycles that I'm fond of.
I'm weird, vehicles. Man. I really don't. I'm really anti-Bible. Like, I don't think asceticism is a good thing. I think it's immoral to tell people to sell other stuff to the poor. Absolutely immoral. Like,
but that's Jesus. That's Jesus for you.
Yeah, I think it's immoral to love your enemies.
That's not where I'm coming from when I say I can sell everything I have, each item for $1.
No, I know. I'm just mentioning it. That's it's a crazy command.
I own a lot of stuff. I'd rather have the money than the stuff at this point. So, but yeah, I think Jesus pushes it to an extreme because he knew he was going to die soon. And he thought that persecution narrative, or that persecution would, this is my perspective, right? In Revelation, it talks about 2 people dying. They're supposed to be dead for like 3 days, and then they get up, right? John the Baptist was dead. When Jesus came back from the dead, who did Herod think it was? It's John the Baptist.
Right.
This is John the Baptist coming back from the dead. Okay. They think it's happening now or then. They think it's happening then. It's all wonderful. It's amazing. There's going to be a new Jerusalem descending from the sky. There's going to be a new earth. It's all going to be wonderful. Oh, wait, crap. Guys, we were wrong. No consequences. I guess that's something to take away from it. What are the consequences from your family's one of the few families that's facing consequences of Christianity actually being wrong? Mistaken.
That's what I'm saying. Most of us, this is the call to action for the community. Like, we have to start to make these people feel some type of consequences. Again, my goal is to make it hard to sit in the pew on Sunday morning, because it's not going to be about philosophical arguments. I hate to disappoint you. It's not going to be about science. I hate to disappoint you. The only hope we have of making Christians stop being Christians is when they stop feeling like that gives them the automatic pass to be the good people in the room. When you start to undermine that soft and fuzzy feeling with really letting them know, I think Christianity is the worst thing about you. I think you're a great person, except for this Christianity. And yeah, I do think some people are going to have to face meaningful consequences in order for them to even consider reflecting on their faith.
Maybe. I guess what it is, Christianity, in my opinion, religion in general, is an insufficient cure for the ills of the world. Excuse me. It can provide some comfort. That's not disputable. But it can also, for some, it can make things worse. Maybe as you get older, you'll be given more and more medications to take to help sustain your health. Some of those medications will have bad reactions. You'll have a bad reaction to those medications if you combine them with other medications. But if you give a sufficient, gap of time, you won't. But you don't know until you start making those decisions. I think religion has some positive elements for sure, but they also often have negative elements, but people don't necessarily see them that way,
right?
Because they can't. Again, knowing we see this. Many of us have watched Pine Creek, and when he tests the idea of poof or drown with Christians, when he says God is leaving it up to you, a lot of them don't even want to second guess their God. What's going on is God is murdering people. It's not less than that. It's murder. And when do you hear them say, God, I don't want you to do this. I don't think you should do this. Again and again, they don't say that. They don't even propose it. Well, I think that it's reason sufficient for God to do it. If it was your child walking out the door with a gun, you'd want to know why. And you wouldn't give a hoot how sufficient that kid's reasons were for wanting to inflict violence on other people. You would not care. There's a better way. Let's get the police involved to protect you, or let's get the legal system involved to prosecute. Yeah. But just the out and out wanton destruction, because it's not going to make you happy. You're going to be satisfied for about 30 minutes. Then you're going to be freaked out. You're going to be scared. You're going to go to jail, and they're going to kill you in prison. You're going to get the electric chair, lethal injection, something like that. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
So maybe if you can go to a different place, go to a different place for you. Stepping away. Again, I think you should write a letter, tell them what the boundaries are, what you'd like the boundaries to be, and allow them to respond to you and tell them what it takes. Here's what it's going to take to heal all this from my perspective. They can like it or they cannot like it. I joke when I was building custom beach cruisers. I say they come with two options: like it or not. That's it. I'm not building it for them. I'm building it for me and hoping someone else will buy it. Right. Buy my kinetic art piece here. It's very expensive. But I think that's how your approach is going to need to be with them. You have two options: like it or not. And you can come to the table knowing they're not going to like it. But you have your life separate from them. And you have to set up all the parameters that make your life work in a healthy, consistent manner. It's your opportunity to get it right. So you're not willing to throw it away. Right? You're not willing to throw it away. So you have the hard work pocket locker of making great decisions that are going to help you adjust and help them adjust to the change that is surely going to come out of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Thanks so much, Pakman. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you about this.
Thank you.
Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channels, and then join us and gather if you want to continue. Please sign up for the Ko-Fi if you want to help our community grow. The link is in the description. And as always, be good to yourselves.
And each other.
All right. In the name of the Darwin, the Dawkins, and the Christopher Hitchens, science bless you all.